The history of football at the Olympic Games. Football as we know it traces its roots back to ancient China. But the modern games started in Britain in the 1800s, and by the end of the 19th century, football had spread worldwide. FIFA, the sport's global authority, was established in 1904 and played a crucial role in football's growth. However, it wasn't until 30 years later that FIFA introduced the World Cup, now the sport's premier event. Before the World Cup took centre stage, the Olympic Games were where international football shined. Surprisingly, the first modern Olympics in Athens in 1896 didn't feature football since the sport was still in its early days, although there are claims of an unofficial football tournament during those games, but nothing official. So the first official football tournament at the Olympics was in Paris in 1900, and it wasn't national teams competing, but three club sides: Parisian Club Français, London's Upton Park, and a team of Belgian students from University Libre de Bruxelles. Upton Park won, earning Great Britain its first football gold medal and making football the first team sport in the Olympic Games. In the 1904 Olympics held in the US, a Canadian club and two American teams participated, with the Canadian team winning gold. By 1908, the London Games hosted a proper football tournament with 6 teams from Great Britain, France, Denmark, Sweden and the Netherlands. Yet again, Great Britain took home the gold. By the 1912 Olympics, the number of participating teams had grown to 11, and the competition adopted a cup format. Despite the changes, Great Britain retained their gold medal, continuing their dominance in Olympic football. After World War I put everything on hold, the Olympics made a comeback in 1920, but it was a rough start. That year's football final ended in controversy, the only time an international final was abandoned. By the 1920s though, football had become one of the most anticipated sports at the Olympics. Fast forward to the 1924 Paris Olympics, and football's popularity was off the charts. For the first time, the tournament featured real national teams, and amongst those was Uruguay, the first South American nation to compete. And man, did they make an entrance. Uruguay dazzled everyone with their incredible ball skills, taking the Europeans by storm. They went all the way to the final and smashed Switzerland 3-0 to take home the gold. Then in 1928 at the Amsterdam Games, Uruguay came back, this time with their fierce South American rivals Argentina. Both teams battled their way to the final, and once again Uruguay came out on top, retaining their title. These victories in 1924 and 1928 weren't just wins, they were a statement. They showed the world the skill and passion for football in South America, and set the stage for the first FIFA World Cup in 1930. Sadly, these wins also marked the beginning of the end for the Olympic football tournament's premier status. The 1928 Games were the last time the Olympics hosted a top-tier football competition, as the World Cup soon took over as the sport's most prestigious event. Following the relative success of the 1930 World Cup, FIFA decided to boost interest in this new competition by excluding football from the 1932 Olympics. However, football made a comeback at the 1936 Games in Germany, where Italy won the gold by beating Austria 2-1. But here's the thing. Football at the Olympics started to struggle with the rise of professionalism in the sport. The World Cup had become the big main event, and fewer people were excited about Olympic football, marking the gap between the two tournaments even bigger. This gap actually worked out well for Eastern European countries, where top athletes were still considered amateurs while being state-sponsored. From 1948 to 1980, the Soviet Union and its allies pretty much owned Olympic football. In fact, Eastern Europe won 23 out of 28 Olympic medals during that period. Countries like Hungary and the Soviet Union won 5 medals each. But it wasn't just the usual suspects getting in on the action. there were some surprise winners too. Sweden, Denmark and Japan all claimed medals during this era of communist dominance in Olympic football. So while the World Cup stole the spotlight, the Olympics saw a unique chapter in football history dominated by Eastern Europe. The 1980s brought a major shake-up in Olympic football. Rules were relaxed to let professional players join in, but with a catch. FIFA still wanted to keep the Olympics from competing with the World Cup. So at the 1984 Los Angeles Games, teams from outside UEFA and CONMEBOL could field their best players, while the powerhouses from UEFA and CONMEBOL were limited to players who hadn't played in a World Cup. This setup saw France taking home the gold at the 1984 Games. The 1988 Games in South Korea saw the Soviet Union winning their last gold medal in Olympic football. But then, in 1992, the rules changed again. Now, all players had to be under 23, with the option to include 3 overage players. That year, Spain, playing on home turf, clinched the gold, with future stars like Pep Guardiola and Luis Enrique leading the charge. It was the first time in over 72 years that the host country won the gold in football. These new rules really mixed things up, and by the 1996 Games in the United States, we saw history in the making. Nigeria's dream team exploded onto the scene. Players like Nwankwo Kanu, Sunday Oliseh and JJ Okocha wowed the world, leading Nigeria to become the first African team to win gold in Olympic football. But 1996 wasn't just about the men's tournament. It was also the debut of the women's football tournament at the Olympics. Unlike the men's side, the women's tournament is a full senior level competition with no age limits, allowing full professional players to participate. The first women's tournament was a massive success, with the USA taking gold on home soil in front of a record crowd for a women's sporting event. This victory wasn't just about winning gold. It laid the foundation for the USA women's team future dominance. They went on to win gold in Athens in 2004, Beijing 2008 and London 2012. All in all, the 1996 Olympics were a landmark event for football, marking the rise of new champions and the beginning of an era for women's football on the global stage. Following Nigeria's gold at the 1996 Olympics, another African nation stepped up in 2000 as Cameroon fought their way to the top in Sydney, winning gold and proving that Africa was a force to be reckoned with. However, the African streak ended in 2004 when Argentina took the gold in Athens, and they did it again in 2008, this time with a young Lionel Messi leading the charge. Fast forward to the 2012 London Games. Argentina, aiming for a historic hat-trick, stumbled, and Mexico emerged as the surprise gold medalists. However, one notable football powerhouse was still missing from the list of Olympic champions: Brazil. Known for their football dominance, Olympic gold had always eluded them. But that changed in Rio 2016, when Neymar led Brazil to a dramatic victory over Germany, making up for their heartbreaking World Cup exit 2 years earlier. Brazil didn't stop there and repeated their success in Tokyo in 2020. Looking ahead to the 2024 Paris Olympics, Brazil won't be participating, which opens the door for a new champion. In fact, since the 1996 Atlanta Games, African and Latin American teams have consistently won gold, so European teams will be eager to break that trend in Paris. Historically, Hungary and Great Britain hold the record for the most Olympic golds in men's football, with 3 each. Hungary's victories came in 1952, 1964 and 1968, along with a silver in 1972 and a bronze in 1960. Great Britain, which hasn't always competed, won in 1900, 1908 and 1912. Argentina, the Soviet Union and Uruguay each have 2 golds, with Argentina also having 2 silvers and the Soviets 3 bronzes. However, Brazil has the most overall Olympic medals, with 2 golds, 3 silvers and 2 bronze. In women's football, the US women's national team has dominated, winning 4 out of 7 gold so far, with Germany, Norway and Canada each winning once. The women's tournament is a full senior level competition, unlike the men's under-23 format, which makes it particularly prestigious. While Olympic football may not have the same prestige as the FIFA World Cup or the UEFA European Championships, it still holds significant value. This is especially true for the women's tournament, which runs parallel to the FIFA Women's World Cup in importance. Don't let anyone tell you Olympic football doesn't matter. It plays a crucial role in the development of young talent and still maintains its relevance in the football world.